Excellent. Well, I'm joined here today with Dan Eon and Andrea Workington. Man, I feel like I'm in the presence of legends today. Uh, Welcome, guys. Welcome. And thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So just, I got a few questions that I'm really dying to ask both of you. But before we get started, the primary objective of this video for everyone listening, and by the way, folks, thank you so much for watching this and for listening. My objective is Dan and Andrea are part of the focus team. They're a big part of the Rapid Cash focus team. And after spending the weekend with them in Edmonton, I was so, kind of fell in love with both of them. I haven't told them that, so it's going to be a little embarrassing for them. But I kind of fell in love with them, and I wanted everyone to really get a sense of familiarity with them before we got to Rapid Cash. So this is a bit of an introductory video, bit of a just to get to know each other. So why don't you start, Dan, and just introduce yourself, give us a bit of background so people get to know you a bit better, and then Andrea, you can go next.
Yeah, sounds good, JG. So a little bit about myself. I joined RAIN in 1997, so I've been a RAIN member for a little while, and started off my first few years in buying 8 or 9 properties, and I soon realized that the banks didn't want to keep lending me money the more properties I got, and so that kind of led me into a couple of different journeys, and one of them being the world of creative finance that you see us talking about this coming weekend. And I had to learn about how sellers could finance my real estate portfolio growing. And so I did a in-depth dive on how that works and what was possible and what wasn't possible. And so I've been doing creative financing and seller financing deals for quite some time, and I love it. And my second journey on growing my portfolio was learning how the banks think and why they make their decisions and who is out there. And so then in about 2002, I became a real estate exclusive mortgage broker. So I really bring to the table all of that personal experience on buying creative financed deals. And then also, how does a bank see us as investors? What kinds of things will they accept? Which won't, what won't they accept? And just really bringing to the table the world of finance and how does that work with our creative deals.
I was muted there, sorry. And we're going to talk about this, Dan, but it is different because we're talking about creative strategies. We're talking about creative solutions. It's, oftentimes this is why we have a focus team, because not all mortgage brokers are made equal, so to speak. And whether or not people are used to creative financing is very different, right, Dan?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if some of the strategies we talk about at Rapid Cash Flow, if you brought that to a regular mortgage broker or banker, they would think you're crazy. It can't be done. That's crazy. I've never heard of that. Get out of my office. You're wasting my time. So you're going to hear a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So, when people kind of come to my office and say, oh yeah, I've done those kinds of deals myself personally, and, hundreds of my other clients have done them as well. There's that level of commonality or connection. So you're right. I mean, it's a very niche industry, and that's what I like to bring to the table for
Awesome.
our members.
That's great, Dan. That's great. Andrea, so happy to host you, and I'm pumped you're going to be in my backyard because I was recently in your backyard. So tell us a bit about yourself, Andrea.
Sure. So I moved out to Red Deer in 2006 and bought my first fourplex. I joined RAIN back in 2005 and chose Red Deer because it was on the top 10 lists of place to invest in Alberta. So going from there, just following the RAIN system, buying holds, moving into the more creative strategies back in about 2008, 2009, I saw it as a way to purchase a lot more houses without needing a whole lot of money. So I made that my main strategy of purchasing. And I've done probably over 60 or 70 agreement for sales since that time. So very actively buying by way of agreement for sale, which is just a fancy way of saying seller financing. Doing a lot of rent-to-own exit strategies, keeping some of those properties for my buy and hold portfolio. Like Dan mentioned, figuring out how that financing piece works once you entered into a seller financing deal. How do you exit successfully out of it and still retain ownership of the property? So learning all those strategies over the years has been great. It's allowed me to really increase my portfolio, to generate some income along the way, and have a fun time at the same time.
I love it. I love it. So what I love best about both of you is that you really, and this just speaks to Rapid Cash. You're in the trenches. You're doing it day in and day out. We're Rapid Cash, and what I find fascinating, and for the people listening in, oftentimes programs are often taught by teachers. They're taught by people that are not necessarily doing it, but that may have learned how to do it and now are good at teaching it. And that's a different skill set, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But Rapid Cash is really about in the trenches. The focus team is in the trenches, doing deals day in, day out. And to me, that was a really powerful effect in Edmonton to work with such good people that, just like me, are doing it day in and day out, closing deals and doing what we got to do. And I think that a lot of the attendees really appreciate that. That's my personal feeling. Well, what do you guys, both of you separately, and Andrea, you could start. What is your favorite part of Rapid Cash? Like for you, what is your favorite part from an audience's perspective? What is the deepest learning? What is something they're going to get that your favorite part?
I think one of my favorite parts of this program, and it's something that's also speaks to Barry and Donna's programs that they put on in conjunction with RAIN, is it's solid content. There's no sales pitches for more programs. The money is so well spent. You get all the legal documents, you get all the tools, all the scripts, everything that you need to get your business up and running is at this course. And so from an audience perspective, sometimes it can be overwhelming because there's so much information, but all the tools are there. And I think that's what I really appreciate is students aren't left wondering, what do I do next?
Well, and it's, I would say I 100% agree with you. And it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. And that's why Barry and Donna have included 6 months of coaching, because there's no doubt as an attendee, you're going to get overwhelmed. I mean, shoot, I think Andrea and Dan, even the focus team to a certain extent, there's just so much information, but that's why there's 6 months of coaching. That's why there's 6 months of support to make sure that overwhelm gets put into action and then turns out. But you're 100% right, Andrea. This is a complete turnkey program. That's the best way I've explained it is it's just a turnkey program. You buy this, you get the education, and then if you're willing to move into action, man, magical things can happen. I know that's where you started, right, Andrea?
Absolutely. I started back with the Ron LeGrand program that was hosted by RAIN. I think 2008, 2009, and I just took massive action. At the first year after taking that program, I bought 16 properties. Wow. With very little of my own money, and oftentimes with no money down. I just had to pay legal fees. So, if you're willing to take action, you can definitely make some money.
That's great. That's great. Now, Dan, well, tell me about your favorite part from an audience's perspective. What's your thoughts?
You guys touched on one of my favorite parts of this program. And just to rewind a bit, a few months back, I bought $1 million worth of real estate for 5% down and no qualifying, and just added it to my real estate portfolio. And, people say, how the heck did you do that? That's crazy. That's insane in today's world where the banks won't give you money. And I think my favorite part of this program is I call it tools in the tool chest, JG. So, to make a really good investor, you need to know so many different ways to put a real estate deal together. If you just think that walking in the front door of your bank, putting your 20% down is the only way to buy investment real estate, you're so limiting yourself, right? You can never treat this business as a professional entity. And, to get to the levels that, you want to retire and make this a full-time career, you need to know the different ways and the different strategies. And I think my favorite part, just like you said, is the follow-up. Andrea and I are connected to the Facebook group, the personal and confidential private group. So, people have questions, they can reach out directly to me or Andrea or, any of the Focus team directly through Facebook Messenger and in general with the group. So, you're going to learn all these amazing ways to put real estate deals together. And then how do they work? How does it, how does the support work? Where does the lawyer fit in? What comes next? I think number one, having all the different strategies and tools is number one, knowing what they are. And then the support to put them into massive action is the next best part. So combining those really makes this, one of my favorite courses for sure.
Yeah. I remember when I started doing, you made me think of a story, Dan. I remember when I first started doing fix and flips, I was amazed at the contractors, the work they could do. And I seem to always had struggled before doing the type of carpentry they would do. And then I started finding out that they had all these tools that I didn't know about, the little jigger saws and the head nozzles and this, that, and the other thing. And I thought, well, no wonder you could do that kind of work. You got those tools. And I realized it's the same with real estate. The more tools you have, the more types of deals you can orchestrate. And you see it the same way, Dan?
Totally, because then the more deals you can put together, the more more money you're going to make. And really, that's what this is about. Not to buy 2x4s and lumber. It's to produce an income-producing business that's going to take care of you and your family for the rest of your life, right? So,
100%. So even though I honestly want to talk all afternoon with you guys and get into the nooks and crannies of this, I don't want to say too much. The point of this was to introduce these fine folks to you, part of the Focus team. You guys are going to be there. You're going to be on stage. You're going to be in the crowd. They're going to be able to interact with you. So it's important, folks, those of you listening, that you have a familiarity with Dan and with Andrea, because they are a key part of making this. My favorite part of when I was in Edmonton and I witnessed it in action was just the incredible amount of learning that takes place between the panel and between the audience, and how it's not a download of information, it's a sharing of information. And for that to be done properly, there needs to be a level of comfort, which is what this is all about. So guys, thank you so much for making yourself available for this short video. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing both of you at the event. Now, before we end, I'll let you guys end it, and I want you to say one thing. Is there one thing that people can prepare before they come? What's your opinion, your advice? You've been at this for, Dan, 20 years now. Andrea is 15, 16, 17. What's one piece of advice people can prepare to get the most out of Rapid Cash? And you know what, Dan, I'll have you start. Andrea, I'll have you finish.
I think to prepare for it, really, I think building the team is so important. I think, looking for good realtors. I know some of the team is going to be there, and we're going to have lots of different people to access in the weekend, but really marking down who are the important people that you're going to want to get to know, not only at that weekend, but maybe there's some other people in your sphere of influence that, have a bit of experience in this. And I think knowing, and why that's important is you need to know, questions when you walk away from the weekend, where to get the information that you're looking for, So I think Barry and Donna are going to be a huge part of that, but local people in Ontario is going to be key. And knowing, who can help from where is important. Like, I've got clients all across Canada just because of my specialty in there. And, that's only one small piece, but realtors, lawyers, accountants. And I think that would be really important, is just to make a list and then fill it in as the weekend goes by.
Perfect. That's great. Andrea?
I would say two things. One is to make sure you're not.
This is a classic. Sorry, I gotta pause you. This is a classic RCP thing right here. I ask for one thing, you guys get two things. That's how it happens at RCP. You always get more, it seems. Go ahead, Andrea.
Yeah, so I would say be fully present and get rid of all your distractions, because there's so much information. I don't want you to miss anything. And the second thing I would say is look for like-minded people at the event. One of the things that we talk about is finding an accountability partner. And, my original mastermind that I was a part of came from an event like this, where we found 7 like-minded people who met together on a regular basis, supported each other. We each had our own individual business, but just finding like-minded people to help you along the journey, because you're going to get a lot of no's, a lot of people telling you you can't do this. But when you surround yourself with like-minded people, it's just amazing what can happen.
I love it. I think that's excellent advice, both of you. Amazing. And I would, if I was to ask myself the question, I would say, give some thought to some goals. Come in with an intention, set some goals in terms of what you think is possible. I want you to do that for two reasons. One, I want you to see that when you come into it, after you see all the opportunities, you're going to say, I set my goal too low. I should shoot for this instead, perhaps. But also come in intentional. This isn't a passive workshop. You're not just going to sit there and listen for 2 days. You're going to be active. You're going to be engaged. This is Rapid Cash. It's all about active real estate income. And you're not going to get that by being passive. If you want active income, you need to be active in the business. So I look forward to it. Andrea, Dan, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you. And I look forward to just in a couple weeks, June 1st and 2nd in Toronto.
Awesome.